for joining me today. This is the card that we are going to be creating, and today I was going for a white on white look. So I have a 110 pound Nina Solar White card base, and then I also have an 80 pound Nina Solar White card front. I am going to use several pieces of the 80 pound paper, and that will kind of make up all of the little elements on the front of the card. I have two oval dies here. One is just the next step up larger in the set, and I'm just going to die cut out a little kind of part of the oval out of the side of that 80 pound cardstock. I did decide that I wanted the sentiment kind of hanging off the side. I definitely could have had it directly in the middle, but just for something slightly different, I thought I would have it hanging off the side. I'm going to create one more frame using both of the dies this time, and this little frame is going to be used just to kind of highlight that oval shape that we've created where the sentiment will sit. So I'm not going to use the inside part, just the outside frame that I've created using the two oval dies. And now I have, this is actually a Cuttlebug embossing folder. This one is called Mosaic, and I am going to emboss the panel that I cut out part of the oval, and this just gives the card kind of a nice background texture. So I'm just going to run it through my Cuttlebug with the embossing mat so that it gives a really nice impression, and this is probably one of my favorite embossing folders. I must admit, I use it often. Now I have two dies here sitting on my desk. This is the leaf die that I'm going to end up using. I have die cut out 4 of them because I'm going to double them up. But you can see I did die cut out the other one, the gold die there, but it just wasn't quite what I was after. I do suggest that you just look through your stash and see if you have any curly dies that are kind of leafy, viney, flowery, and they would work for this. I'm sure that you could make it work because I didn't think I had the right dies, but I gave it a go and it worked out okay. So I am doubling up the swirls here just so that I can make them kind of a bit more sturdy because they won't all be adhered down flat to the paper. So I'm just using some liquid glue to adhere 2 layers together. I'm drawing a little circle here in pencil just so I know where to stamp my sentiment, and the sentiment is going to be from this stamp set here. I can't remember where I got the stamp set. I will see if I can find it, probably from AliExpress. I can't remember, but the leafy viney die is definitely from AliExpress, and so I will link that down below if you're interested. This, I'm using some archival ink in shadow grey to stamp the sentiment. I stamped it in grey just because I felt like black would be a little bit harsh considering I was going for a white on white on white card. So I'm just rubbing out the pencil line that I created so that I definitely can't see it. And now I want to just add a little bit of fun foam. I also get my fun foam from AliExpress. It's the cheapest place that I can pick it up. And so I will link that down below where I purchased that from. And again, just going to draw a rough circle so that I can cut it out and you won't be able to see the foam behind the card. Adding a little bit of liquid glue to adhere that all down. Using liquid glue on an embossed piece just kind of makes me feel like it adheres slightly better than using double-sided tape, but whatever you have is fine. I have these Darice adhesive foam strips. Now these are really super thin foam strips. You could still cut these out. In fact, you could probably use the same 2 oval dies to cut from the foam, and that would work as well. This is just what I had on hand, and I find if you take off the release paper as well, then you can curve it around really nicely into the frame. I wanted the frame to stick up off the embossed piece as well, just so that you could clearly see that I had added a frame rather than it kind of sinking into the background. I think it's important when doing a white on white card that you aim for lots of different layers and perhaps lots of different textures, just so that it has a really definitive edge between all of the pieces that you are using. Otherwise you don't want it to sink in and kind of look like it's all just a flat white card because you didn't have any other colors to use. So anyway, This is, I've added on the oval frame, and I'm just going to cut it off with my scissors on the edge, and that way it kind of floats off the edge of the card nicely. And you can kind of already see, I'll show you here, that it has some really nice dimension already. Just with those kind of 2 layers, we're starting to build it up, and it's starting to look good. Now I'm placing these pieces on, and I knew I would have to do a little bit of cutting and snipping to kind of make them sit the way that I wanted them to. I actually found I don't have many of these kind of swirly vine dies, so I was super limited, and I kind of had to make it work with what I had, but that's okay. It did work in the end, and I like it. But you might have lots more options available to you in your die collection. And as I said, I am just going to cut off little bits and pieces. I don't want those leaves to cover up the sentiment, and so I'm just going to kind of snip off at obvious pieces. I'm not just going to snip off randomly. Like, I want it to be nice and clean cut and look as though that was the way it's meant to be. But I do kind of want it sitting up on that frame, if it makes sense, but definitely not covering the sentiment. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid glue behind the larger leaves and kind of at the corners where it meets on the die, and that will be plenty to hold it down. And these are just kind of the finishing little touches, adhering it on. And one thing that I did think made a big difference here, because this does look nice, but it almost looks a little bit empty, in my opinion. But I'm going to add some Nouveau drops, and I'm going to add plenty of them. This one is the glossy white, and I'm going to add them kind of on the center of all the dots and just lots and lots around. I really feel like it makes the card. You could also use enamel dots or anything that's kind of similar, just to create that extra little bit of interest. And I know it's kind of tricky to see, but when I tilt it a little bit here and give you a close-up, it definitely finishes off the card and makes it look more completed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this card, and I hope you liked it. I hope you try something similar, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye.